What's up, Guardians, and welcome to my weekly Xur builds, a series that aims to create a Gambit build for each class out of the exotics Xur has on offer every week. These exotics may or may not be the best builds or even work at all, but damn it, I'll build them anyway. This week, Xur comes to us with the following exotics. For the weapon, Telesto, for 29 legendary shards. Hunters can purchase the Gwisin Vest, Titans can get Severance Enclosure, and Warlocks are offered Sunbracers. As always, each armor piece is priced at 23 shards. So, let's look at the weapon. The Telesto's exotic perk is this. Fusion projectiles attach and detonate with a delayed void blast. Its second perk is, multi-kills with this weapon immediately reload your equipped kinetic and energy weapons from reserves. Telesto has a history of being the fusion rifle of choice for Crucible. Make sure to pick this one up if you haven't already got it, and then keep it in Crucible. Gambit isn't the place for it. It's not that it isn't a great weapon, the burst of rounds followed by small explosions look and feel great. It's just that the exotic slot in a Gambit build can be much better filled with other weapons. Sorry Telesto, maybe another time. With the weapon out of the way, let's take a look at our first build with the Gwisin Vest. Our hunter's exotic perk is Roving Assassin. Each spectral blades kill you make before going into stealth will restore more of your super energy. Our objective is to deal as much damage as possible to large swaths of enemies, getting our super as quickly as possible. So, we're going with a Reaper. Obviously, we'll be on mid-tree void, or the exotic is useless. The ability Flawless Execution, while not integral to the build, is worthy of note here as it grants true sight, like the Wishender bow and invisibility, giving us all the information we need to pick and choose our targets perfectly. For the weapons, the pulse rifle Bad Juju is going to be invaluable to charging our super. Quick successive kills will keep the energy coming for us to get to the meat of the build in no time at all. The energy weapon is a 7th Seraph shotgun and the power weapon is the Falling Guillotine. Both are designated the responsibility of dealing huge burst damage to yellow bars, invaders and the primeval. Our mods are firstly going to boost our intellect as far as we can. Then we have Energy Converter, Swift Charge, Taking Charge, Dynamo, Charged Up, Traction, Bomber, Supercharged, and finally Shotgun Scavenger. This build is designed to get our super as fast as possible and then utilize this in the most efficient way. When we get the super, we should think about where it's best used. Are there a lot of blockers on our bank? Is there an invader threatening our teammates? Maybe there's a bunch of yellow bars or a high value target that needs taken care of. We don't want to wait around too long or we risk reducing the amount of supers we can get in a single round. However we decide to proceed, the extra super energy we can get per kill and stealth will ensure we have plenty of opportunity to advance our objective as far as possible. After we've used our super, we should have a few stacks of light handy. This is where Energy Converter comes in. When we throw a grenade directly after our super is over, our stacks of light convert into a 10th of super energy each. So if we manage to gather 5 stacks, that's halfway to the next super. 50% is the maximum, but what a huge head start. If we can keep it up, we should be able to get 3 supers in a game. This is hard to make work. Once you get it working, it's great, but the amount you have to keep track of to get the most out of it is tiring. When your teammates drop orbs, dodging as much as possible for Dynamo to charge your super, the pressure of not dying with 5 stacks of light, which would set you back the whole match. It's a lot on your mind when you could be collecting modes without a care in the world. What I will say is this. When the new season starts and the catalyst for Bad Juju is made available again, this build will be much less stressful. The Gwisin Vest is vastly better suited in Crucible since your kills hold a much greater value than the adds in Gambit. It was, after all, a broke as hell exotic in Crucible before it was patched to be less effective, but by no means a lost cause. Stick with PvP. Our next build is Severance Enclosure. Arc, Solar and Void melee final blows unleash a damaging explosion. Finishers and final blows against more powerful targets increase the radius and damage of the explosion. This build is going to be an up close and personal fighter, so we'll go for Collector this time. Top Tree Solar gives us Hammer Strike, which replaces our regular melee with a Hammer Strike that weakens enemies struck by it, so follow-up damage by other sources is increased. Why this is awesome will become obvious in a moment. For our weapons, we'll be going with the Monte Carlo, as this will help charge up our melee when it needs topping up. In our other slots, we have a shotgun and a sword for extra high damage against yellow bars and invaders. Our mods will need to maximize our strength stat. Then we have hands-on, shield break charge, radiant light, auto rifle loader twice, reactive pulse, melee damage resistance, striking light, sword reserves, taking charge, and distribution. If you have heavy-handed, use that instead of striking light. One day I'll have it. The strategy is smash. Honestly, I can't be much more descriptive than that. We'll need to sprint to activate Hammer Strike, but when we use it, it'll unleash an impact on a target that inflicts damage and applies a debuff which increases damage received by 50%. We'll mostly be aiming for red bars that will be one shot. This is boom number 1. The Severance Enclosure will then activate and unleash an explosion, taking care of the surrounding enemies. This is the second boom. So in short, it's 2 booms, then collect. Simple. Since the Hammer Strike inflicts the damage debuff, we can follow up yellow bars quickly with the sword for instant motes. If we can coordinate with our team properly, this debuff can also be effectively used against the Primeval. It's fun to use, but having to rely mostly on our melee and the resulting booms culminates in a pretty middling build. It's great against the red bar adds, but there are a lot of yellow bars that just won't die from the first boom, so we won't get the second boom, which just beats the objective of the build's exotic. So its effectiveness falls short on most aspects of a Gambit match. The Hammer Strike can be used effectively with teammates against yellow bars, invaders, and the Primeval, but to that end, there are better builds than the Severance Enclosure we can pursue. For our final build, we have the Sunbracers. Increases the duration of solar grenades. Solar melee kills grant unlimited solar grenade energy for a brief time. Now, I dunk on grenade builds a lot, but I just want to say straight up, this is a fantastic build. It makes for a great all-rounder because when we're finished, we'll end up with a build that has such high versatility, you'll find you can step into any role as the situation calls for it. We're going to go with Top Tree Solar for one ability in particular, Celestial Fire, which will allow us to activate our Sunbracers perk with a ranged melee strike, throwing out 3 fireballs instead of swinging a close range slap. For the weapons, we have the Monte Carlo in our kinetic slot. As mentioned in the previous build, dealing damage with this will charge our melee nice and quickly, which helps us feed the melee and grenade side of the strategy, as well as keep the motes dropping. Otherwise, we have a sniper in our energy slot and a heavy machine gun to boost our range and high damage capabilities. Save these for bosses and invaders. Since we have the Monte Carlo boosting our melee, which in turn grants us grenades, we can skip boosting those stats, focusing on raising our intellect to its max, then recovery if we have any slots left. Afterwards, we have machine gun scavenger and ammo finder, momentum transfer, auto rifle loader, sniper rifle reserves, and 2 outreach, further increasing our melee charge. What we want to do with this build is keep our melee charged because, strangely enough, the melee is the key to this grenade build. We want to enter a fight with our melee, preferably a red bar to secure a one-hit kill, which will give us infinite grenade energy. With this, we can scatter up to 5 grenades within the short window of time the buff is active, dealing a devastating carpet bombing to any ad unfortunate enough to be in range. The resulting damage will recharge our melee thanks to our mods, allowing us to continue this self-sustaining barrage of death indefinitely. And if we miss too many grenades that our melee doesn't recharge, the Monte Carlo will quickly remedy that. Keep pressing Q, win. This is the strongest grenade build I've ever done. Weird, since it focuses on charging the melee instead of the grenade, but I think people have been sleeping on this build, since it's genuinely a great strategy. Low on boss damage, but this can be remedied by equipping a sword. However, if you're up against a meatball, the machine gun will offer more sufficient range for primevals and invaders. Sunbracers and Monte Carlo alone make this build what it is, so feel free to play around with the rest of the equipment, as long as you keep the melee based mods to keep the strategy rolling. This is one of the simplest strategies out there and feels great to see so many modes dropping after the dust has settled. So, overall, this week Xur has some nice options. Not necessarily for Gambit, but there are some real gems for Crucible, which makes it still a good week for exotics. The Gwisin Vest in particular has decent rolls for mobility, recovery and intellect, making it an ideal pick in Crucible. As far as this channel though, the Sunbracers make for the best Gambit build this week. I'm never one to show support for a grenade build, but I'll make an exception for a melee based grenade build, because it doesn't count. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think of these builds and Xurs exotics, and don't forget to like and subscribe. If you'd like to see more of me, you can find me on Twitch and consider following me on all the social medias. Thanks for watching and see you next time.